Hey everyone. So I started to record a video and then I ran out of memory card room. And this is a kind of spontaneous video. I wasn't planning to do one tonight, but I noticed that I have 100 subscribers, which is kind of exciting. It's a definite landmark. So I don't know what we're going to be talking about. But I was just fiddling with the viewfinder because when I turn on my camera and it's set to the still mode, I look amazing. And then I hit the video camera button and I look like this. It's a little more red faced than I would like. I'd like to be more Asian looking because in my mind, the skin tone that is a little more ochre looks thick skinned and also calm. And all this pink that I have going on looks to me like I'm about to be in pain or I'm like really vulnerable or something. But some people like it anyway. So, what did I want to talk about today? I just watched the movie Maleficent, which was entertaining. Um, I have a little bit of a problem with the way action movies are written. I thought that I was going to have a problem with the way they portrayed fairies and paganism, but I actually was okay with that with Maleficent. But I don't like when they. It seems like there's a rule in Hollywood that you have to have a certain level of balance of good and evil and a certain amount of violence. And I, first of all, I don't. I did not sign on for that rule. Um, I don't. I don't know what focus groups they're using, but I wasn't in any of them. And and then okay, so that's one thing, right? Okay, so you've decided you want a certain level of violence. I object, but even taking that into account, then they twist the plot into this like unrecognizable, like things that are totally unlikely, just so that they can have that big moment, big moment, the money moment, and I find that obnoxious, quite frankly. I don't need every Hollywood movie, even if it's an action movie, to be a Chuck Norris episode of Walker Texas Ranger. Uh, I don't know why I'm maligning that show. It's just what popped into my head. Um, but also, I don't think it takes that much effort to just write better. Like, okay, so you want to do that, you just write it in so that it's more likely. You don't have to make it so stupid. Uh, it's a little bit. I found that with the X-Men movies, I was quite irate about them. I'm still not over that X-Men movie, and that was like years and years and years ago. So I'm continuing with the witchy movie project, and I do regard witches as different from wizards and warlocks. But I can't break it down for you because it's just something that I feel. Um, I think that Mordred in the Arthurian myths is more of a witch as compared to Merlin, who, well, they called him a magician actually, but you could say that he was like a wizard. Um, and I am of the Terry Pratchett persuasion of the difference, which is that wizards' magic comes more from the sky and it's more based on book learning and it's more astrological, and witches are more about magic that comes from the ground and they tend to rely on passing things on by word of mouth, and tarot falls on in that category. Although I'm not exactly sure why, but I remember someone said that to me and it resonated, so now I'm promoting it as fact, which is what a Piscean brain tends to do. as has been pointed out to me many times. But and now I am reading. This is going to be a sort of eclectic pagan video in celebration of 100 subscribers. I'm reading. I think this is going to reverse when I upload it. The Pagan Night. Night as in nighttime, not. It's not a pagan knight. And it's all right. I think that the people they're calling pagans in it are pretty pagan, but then the people that they're fighting against also seem kind of pagan. So, which is fine. I tend to get irritated when there's something too Abrahamic in it. I understand why they do that for contrast, but I like when I was talking to someone online and they were saying that they thought that a peace department was ridiculous because peace was nothing. That kind of highlighted very nicely, actually, for me, what I object to about the world, which is that we cannot envision a utopia because we always have to have two sides. We always have to have some kind of conflict and resolution in any plot or any situation in our lives. You'll see it with people who, you go out to have a good time with them and then they seek conflict. They're looking for, did you see the way she looked at me? Or what's that guy's problem? Or, and it's sort of really unnecessary. You could just be having fun at that point. And someone in the Marianne Williamson group also recently said that in order to understand love, you kind of have to understand all the problems. And I agree that you have to, you can't just be like ostrich in the sand, with your head in the sand and not see the problems. But I would like very much to see what utopia would look like, or what something positive that goes on for an extended period of time would look like, with just, kind of, I don't know, hanging out. Not in torpor, obviously, with inspiration and productivity and love and prosperity. But I think it's worth trying. Just because we can't quite envision it because we've never done it before doesn't mean we shouldn't try it. And I think people have tried it in the past, and it hasn't really burgeoned, but with a bit of concentration and conviction, I think it could. There is one fantasy writer who does. It's not like there's no conflict in her books, but it's not like Terry Goodkind, where you're like just slogging it out through this desperate situation that just gets more and more horrible until the very end, where there's kind of some kind of release or triumph. And I feel like Hollywood is doing that a lot too. It's not balanced between good and evil. It's like an entire hour of just kind of torture and horror and nastiness, or sadness if it's a feel-good movie, and then at the end something hopeful comes up. So you're dedicating an hour of your life to all this negativity, and then there's like a little pop at the end, which is supposed to make you feel good. But in terms of the ratio, that's not that great. So yes, this writer, Patricia A. McKillip, is a fantasy writer who has written a number of very interesting fantasy novels. The Bell at Sealy Head is one. The Changeling Sea is another. Now I'm going blank. There are so many, actually. There are really quite a lot of them. Omnia is one I've not read yet, but I remember that title because I was shopping and I kept seeing it pop up and it was expensive. So I don't quite know how to describe her writing, actually. It's okay if you've read like Fantasties, which is a very old fantasy novel, kind of pre or contemporary Tolkien, or maybe Cecilia Dart Thornton. Cecilia Dart Thornton, she did a really good job with her first three books, her first series, Bitterbind, and then the second one, or the third one, I can't remember what it was called. Fallow. No, I can't remember. Um, got a little weaker. It started to feel twee, like what people worry about when they think about utopia or never having any conflict. It's going to be boring. It was a little at that point, but Patricia A. McKillop always keeps it really scintillating, and she introduces like a little bit of darkness or menace here or there, but mostly it's just strangeness, which I actually find a lot more interesting because I'm a person who likes colors. I don't like everything black and white. So, and I think that feeds into paganism also, because I think that Abrahamic religions focus a lot on good and evil, and I think that paganism is more just varieties of nuances. Um, so Patricia A. McKillop, I would recommend as a not only a good read, but also just an example of what a society could look like that isn't just desperately struggling to survive all the time and determined to kill anyone that looks at them sideways. Yeah. Although she writes one book like that where she makes the point very astutely. Um, there's this incredible line in one of the. Can I remember the name of the book? I actually can't. Odd Magic. It's Odd Magic. OD Magic. Read it. It's amazing. And it's definitely a discussion about the dichotomy between utopia and conflict and what that all means. I read a lot of fantasy. I basically educated myself on fantasy because I was homeschooled and there were two things that I wanted to study. One was the First Nations people of Canada, because I felt the way my school was teaching it was not satisfying. I mean, they didn't really tell us much. And then it was so funny because it was kind of like the first month that I was being homeschooled, and my mother took me to the library, and my mother had this way of being incredibly rebellious and incredibly conformist at the same time. So she's asking and I wanted to read about the Mi'kmaq people, the Micmac. We used to call them the Micmac, and I think now that the politically correct term or the real name for them is Mi'kmaq. I wanted to read about them because there were not many books about them, and I was fascinated with the Mi'kmaq for some reason. And so my mom is asking the librarian if they have any books on the Mi'kmaq, and she's asking my mom, what grade is he in? So my mom is not really wanting, first of all, to volunteer that I'm being homeschooled because she doesn't want truant officers coming and getting into her business, just because it's annoying. And then on top of that, she's trying to work out what grade I'm in, and I'm like pulling on her jacket saying, Mom, it doesn't matter. Any book on the Mi'kmaq, no matter what grade it's for, I would read because there's so little that's been published. And my mom's going, shh, I'm trying to think. Which is classic. When my mom was absent-minded, she could be very funny, but also a kind of a dismissive authoritarian. And but she's not alive anymore, but I have so many funny stories about her. She was a delight and incredibly strong personality, and also incredibly funny, kind of without totally meaning to be. Aquarian mother. So anyway, utopia, consider it. I noticed that Sam Cedar uses the word utopia on his show to mean impossible, and I think that the word does kind of mean impossible, but I don't know. I think that human beings came on Earth to live and love, and I don't think that we have to fight each other to know what that means. I think that we've had enough fighting to know what it means. I think we can rest now and enjoy each other, and especially especially people that are different from you. I mean, like, you're missing out, man. If you if you are the kind of person that only feels comfortable with people with exactly the same ideas as you and who look the same as you and have the same culture as you and the same upbringing, it, it's like I heard someone. Oh, there was a video on YouTube saying like why diversity doesn't work, and I'm like, it's not supposed to work. It's supposed to make your life worth living. I mean, it's not. We're not doing it for economic benefit. That's not why we have diversity. It probably does help with the economy anyway, but everything is not driven by that. Like, the best advantage. It's just nice and good to do, and it feels good, and to talk to people and get different perspectives, and I don't know, expand yourself. And I'm not saying that like to be judgmental, but I'm just it's an appeal kind of. Well, I was raised in India, so I kind of started out doing that, and there was more opportunity to do it in India and more kind of receptivity, I would say, than in Canada. It's interesting because India is famous for the caste system, and I encountered it in one or two places, but the kind of discrimination that I encountered in the Canadian school system about fashion puts the Indian caste system to shame. What we have got into in Western culture about looks and clothes is fascist, I think. I mean, that's a very strong term because fascism is, usually involves violence and incarceration and stuff, executions. But I think that the way that we treat each other about those things is really quite terrible. And it's different because one is based on a choice, and one is based on a choice, and one is based on how you're born. But do we choose what we like? I mean, if I like this pink shirt and everyone says it looks stupid on you, but do I know why I like it? Not really. I mean, I saw it and I liked it and I bought it. And I don't necessarily think that we necessarily choose what we like. I mean, maybe many of us would choose different partners. All your friends are telling you that guy's no good for you, or sometimes you kind of even know that stuff that you like is not necessarily good for you, or what your friends would choose for you, or you would change it. What I'm saying is you would change it if you could stop liking it. You probably maybe would, but you can't. So, and I mean, I'm not saying like just always go with what you like, but this is quite a ramble. I'm enjoying myself though. It's nice to talk to you all. Thank you for 100 subscribers. It's very. I think most people on YouTube usually congratulate themselves when they've got 1,000, but I'm very happy with 100 subscribers. I did actually think when I started a YouTube channel that I could just get on here and talk about witches and it would blow up all over YouTube. And the reality is that you have to be pretty into what you're doing on YouTube to keep doing it, and kind of be self-sufficient in enjoying speaking, not necessarily looking at likes and all the reaction that you're getting, because for a long time in the beginning, it's going to be sort of like, what do they say, shouting into the wind or something like that. Yeah. Anyway, I should wrap this up because I have really said nothing. I mean, I have rambled on. Okay, a couple of book reviews and movie reviews, and I'm going to say goodnight. And thank you all for watching.